promised some shoulder isolation work, and that's what we're going to do. Um, Shoulders, we sometimes kind of forget about like the cute little intricate things we can do with our shoulders. We're often, when it comes to our shoulders, we're often concentrated more on the big picture, how we use them in our big snake arms and arm undulations, and how we use our shoulders to affect our arm movement. And then we lose sight of actually using the shoulders as their own mechanism for interest in your dance. And I love it when a dancer goes in and does a bunch of shoulder stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, here we are. Bam. So we have some directions that we can take our shoulders in. We're going to look at directions, shapes, and more shapes, little things we can do with our shoulders. So I'm going to start on this guy here. This is my right shoulder, but it might be left on your screen. We have forward and back, forward, back, forward, back. We have up and down, up, down, up, down, and then we can create some shapes from that. So let's talk about each of those very briefly separately. The forward. As I do my forward, I am doing that from a contraction in the front of my shoulder. So rather than thinking about pushing the shoulder forward, and we used to call this a shoulder push, until I realized that what I'm really doing is contracting in the front to pull the shoulder forward. So little contraction pulls the shoulder forward. Now if I want to send it back to neutral, I just let go of that contraction. If I want the shoulder to come back, well then I'm working in the shoulder blade a little bit to contract the shoulder blade in and to the center of my back. You can see that. So the forward, contract here in the front, back, contract in the back, and it'll pull the shoulder in the direction that you intended to go. All right, now I'm gonna face dead on for the ups and downs. The down, I mean really down is a little bit down from neutral, and I'm kind of using a little bit of the muscles underneath the arm to make that length happen there, the length in my neck. But what I want to concentrate on here is the up. Up is super important. Our shoulder up. It's like a tiny lift straight up. So it's like you've got a helium balloon connected to your shoulder, and it's just pulling your shoulder straight up. Usually when we think about our shoulders coming up, we start to do sort of a shrug. Because that's what we do, right? In our life, we shrug all the time. So we don't want to shrug in and up. We want to send that shoulder straight up and then release it down, straight up and release it down. And where I personally feel this is actually in these arm muscles right through here. I feel that in my upper arm, a little bit of tensing as the shoulder comes up and then releases it down, shoulder comes up and releases it down. So we have our forward contracting in the front, back contracting in the back, up, little contraction in the upper arm, and then down, tiny little contraction just under the arm to give it length, okay? I'm going to switch to my other shoulder now, and we're going to talk about shoulder squares, which is just putting those things in sequence. So I'm going to send the shoulder forward, up, again, without shrugging, back, squeeze in the back, and then down, find that length. Squeeze in the front, straight up, squeeze in the back, down. Squeeze in the front, straight up, squeeze in the back, down. I'll do one more in this direction. This is kind of what we do the most, is front to back shoulders, but let's go the other way. Squeeze it in the back, lift it up. Squeeze it in the front, send it down. So we can do these shoulder squares in either direction. Nice and easy. Back, up, forward, down. I'm going to take one more here, back, up, forward, down. All right. What I like to do, I think it's a lot of fun, is to take both shoulders and have them working in opposition to each other. So if one shoulder is forward, the other goes back. One goes up, the other goes down. One goes back, the other goes forward. One goes down, the other goes up. It's hard to think of it in words, but we can take that boom, 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 tuck, 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 or we can return versus that. It's a little bit of coordination. If this is a tough sell, then just do one shoulder at a time and really get good at that. So we can do a lot of fun stuff just with that little pop, 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 that if your music is telling you to do little pop, 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 pops, it's great to take that in your shoulder. Now, we can smooth those out into shoulder circles, which seem a lot easier. Little shoulder rolls, and they are a lot easier if you don't think about it. But what are we doing? We're going through those 4 movements and rounding them out. So we want to make sure when we're doing our shoulder rolls that we're still controlling it with the same muscles, rather than just throwing it out there because it's an easy move. Also, trying to keep those arms from going with it. So we're trying to keep those hands kind of in space. I just like to think of my hand being suspended in the air, and I'm unable to move it out of its spot. Because what we don't want to do is start the backstroke, start swimming with our shoulder movement. Same thing with the forward shoulders. So, you might not be able to completely eliminate hand movement. I know I can't, but I'm trying to keep them as still as possible and really isolate in the shoulder area to make those rolls and those little isolations all about the shoulder and not about the arm, which is where we often use the shoulder to begin an arm movement, like a snake arm or an arm undulation. But in this case, we're trying to only use the shoulder. All right, last little thing I'm going to throw out there before we wrap up today is we're going to try a little figure 8 of the shoulder. And again, I like to work this out with just the isolations first. So I'm going to go down, forward, up, center, not all the way back, then down, back, up, center. And again, down, forward, up, center, down, back, up, center. Noticing that center, I'm still in that up position. Down, forward, up, center, down, back, up, center. One more here. So we're drawing two little side-by-side boxes. Down, back, up, center. All right, I'm going to switch my shoulder, and we're going to do it nice and smooth. So I'm going to go down, forward, up, center, down, back, up, center, down, forward, up, center, down, back, up, center, down, forward, up, down, back, up. And again, trying to keep that hand as still as I can and just move with the elbow. So, a couple of little things for you there. So what did we have? We had 4 directions of movement in the shoulder. We can turn that into a little box, drawing it in either direction, and we can do it as a circle, and we can do it as 2 little boxes, and we can turn those 2 little boxes, now I'm going the other way, into a figure 8 in either direction. So that's today's Technique Tuesday, super concentrated just on shoulder movement as its own entity, rather than only thinking about those shoulders as being our starting point for our arm movement. That's it for today. Thank you so much for jumping on, and I will see you next time.